So look, the spoilers for Boruto chapter 28 have dropped last night. We went live and chopped it up for the duration of the release. First off, I want to shout out everyone who was a part of that stream. We had loads of fun. It was like 200 to 300 people in there, late night around 2 a.m. And we went over and discussed nearly all the panels for chapter 28. Now here's the deal. Not all the panels got leaked last night. Everyone is still waiting to see the last 6 panels or so of the chapter. The leakers wanted to do that to promote the official release and not kill all the hype going into that release. I don't mind it. Actually, it helps us creators more than not because it allows the series to gain even more attention throughout the month. But as it pertains to that, I want to specifically discuss a part of the chapter that caught my eye the most. So as you all know, on the cover of chapter 28 was Sumire, surprisingly enough. I personally thought it was going to be Mamushi, and all indicators pointed towards that being the case. But Ikimoto definitely had other plans, and that's okay because I know Mamushi is going to get that covered very soon. Probably as soon as next chapter because remember, he remains the only shinju who has not received the chapter cover yet. So obviously that will change very soon. But in this cover we see Sumire holding Boruto's brand new sword, which looks very different and more put together than it ever has been before. And notice that everything about the blade is pretty much different. The only thing that remains the same is the hilt. On the sheath you can see there's a Konoha symbol, and on the bottom is the Wheel of Fire crest, which symbolizes that the sword was created by Sumire for Boruto, who both reside and represent Konohagakure from the Land of Fire. And of course I will address the clear elephant in the room before we proceed. The sword is very different from the one we see near the end of the series. Now, why is that? I heard a lot of theories get thrown around. Most often I heard is that this scene is a retcon, which I don't think is true at all. I also heard that this scene could be a result of a different timeline, which is of course a big possibility considering how the concept of time and time manipulation is such a huge factor into the main plot of the story. I wouldn't say it's unlike Ikimoto to throw us for a spin like that, but in reality, the answer is simple. And everyone low-key knows the answer already, but we're just dodging it because sometimes we tend to underestimate the author's ability to react and adapt their story, changing things up on the fly, even though he has shown the ending to us before the series even started. Me personally, if I was to make a story, I wouldn't do this, only because it kind of limits your creativity. Like obviously, Ikimoto knows how he wants his story to end, and he probably has it all mapped out on how he's gonna get there. But as for me, I would like to work as I go. Because you can have something mapped out in your head, but when you actually get there in the story, you might find out that something else might be better than what you originally thought. But now the problem is, the new concept that you want to implement threatens the continuity of the story because something that's gonna happen doesn't match up with the ending that you already showed the readers in chapter 1. That's what I feel like Ikimoto might be dealing with. So he prepared for it in advance. We go back to chapter 1, this scene in particular, the way he draws Boruto, especially the sword, is of little detail. So it leaves room for that right brain to kick in, your creative side. And Kishimoto is also a victim of this as well, specifically when he first revealed Pain in the story. Pain was in part 1 of Naruto, if you guys didn't know. I'm pretty sure most of you did, but just in case some of you didn't know, Pain was also in part 1 of Naruto, but literally all the way at the end. When revealed, his Rinnegan wasn't even detailed at all. You could barely tell he had a Rinnegan at all. The only thing that had a resemblance of the Rinnegan was probably his pupils, but that's about it. And that could be because of a few reasons. For one, he knew Pain was going to have a dojutsu from the start, but wanted to leave that design kind of bland so he could reimagine it at a later time, just leaving his options open. Or it could be that he just didn't come up with the Rinnegan at that point, which is an example of him building on ideas as the story goes on and not mapping out the whole manga before he starts. And I mean, as you guys can see, that way of thinking gave us one of the best series of all time. So if this sword is a result of that, we just have to accept that things change throughout the duration of the story for better or for worse. Ikimoto's art improved so much since then. You can honestly just say that this is Boruto's new sword. It's just very poorly drawn. But I'm not gonna sit up here and say that because I'm not disingenuous. I know what Ikimoto's intentions were. He's creating new plot points and narratives as the story goes on, reading and reacting. That's it. So we're now focusing directly onto this new sword. Sumire was finally able to finish upgrading his new sword, and right before the Mamushi invasion at that. So now we see this new sword that she made Boruto, and it honestly is giving me more of a katana vibe than a regular sword. And actually, Sumire stated that she reshaped the blade from its original material to a form that maximizes its strength and sharpness. As you guys can probably see on the screen right here, the blade of the sword was greatly sharpened. And to be honest, it looks like it has more of a curve to it now. Like I said, the same as a katana. And from what Sumire said, we can see why she might have redesigned the shape of the blade to give it more of a curve. Historically, katanas are curved to improve the effectiveness for the unique combat styles of a samurai. The curves allows for a more efficient slicing motion and enables a faster draw and cut in a single fluid motion, which results in creating a deeper cut than a straight blade could achieve. It also affects the overall balance and weight of the sword, making it appear to feel lighter and more maneuverable. So obviously, Sumire must have took all of this into consideration when redesigning the sword, but at the same time, this wasn't the main problem that Boruto had with his sword, which is also the reason why he is in need of a new upgraded sword in the first place. It was chipped by Jiraiya because Boruto lost concentration and didn't properly push chakra through the blade to keep it from chipping or getting nicked. And it's safe to say that Sumire made this a non-issue for Boruto. She added a new technique programmed into the sword. This new program is something she likes to call Boruto-Style Jinho blade cloak. The rest of this is just glaze, I'm not saying all that. And on stream this was hilarious, like the name of this technique is so unnecessarily long, it's almost funny. Like Sumire has taken Minato's spot in being bad at naming techniques. Like she added Uchiha style in there, and then Kenjutsu. Obviously this could change when the official release drops, but at the moment this is pretty funny and I'm gonna laugh about it. So I hope this changes because this name actually stinks. But for now, we'll just call it Jinho. So this Jinho technique allows Boruto to fight while the Hagoromo ability stays active subconsciously. So once the user grabs the hilt of the blade and activates the technique, of course, the sword is configured to automatically maintain the jutsu on its own. Boruto then said it's slight, but he can feel the sword absorbing his chakra. Then Sumire says, don't worry, because of that function, he doesn't have to devote any concentration to maintaining the technique, since the effect of Hagoromo continues on its own. So as long as Boruto has chakra, the ability will hold out. So the likelihood of the sword being chipped while being wielded is extremely low. So to be honest, if that's all there was to this new sword, I probably wouldn't make a video on it because there wouldn't be enough to really talk about to make a whole video. But what I'm gonna say after this is why I think this sword has the potential to be completely broken in multiple ways than one. So after Sumire explains this new feature for Boruto, she states that she also installed a security feature in the sword. A feature that causes the sword to rapidly drain the chakra of anyone that touches the sword who is not a registered user. So in case the enemy ever gets hold of Boruto's sword, they won't be able to do anything to it because of this new ability of the sword. If you was to ask me if I think this will work against a divine tree being, I'd have to question that, because if Jiraiya still wanted to destroy this sword, he definitely could, just because of his massive chakra reserves. Being the incarnation of the Ten Tails, he has endless chakra. So the question is, would the sword drain his energy enough to the point to where he would even feel it taking effect? I suppose this would work better on someone like Claude or Kawaki, just someone who has a limited amount of chakra. And it could end up draining these characters so much, it could affect their use of ninjutsu or shinjutsu overall. So this ability is kind of useful. And Boruto can use it in his own way too. He can purposely bait people into holding his sword by throwing it at his enemies in a way to where it would be easy to catch. Now, instead of it simply being a safety mechanism, it's now an offensive weapon that could come in clutch in a battle. The only people that are registered to use the sword without it draining the chakra is Boruto and Sasuke along with Sumire. Sumire registered herself only for work and maintenance purposes. I mean, she's the one who made the sword, so of course she's gonna be a user. So like I said in past videos, this sword is now a classified scientific ninja tool with depth control. It's as simple as that. But even though this sword now has all these new awesome abilities and functions, there's still some concerns I and a lot of other Boruto fans had about the sword. And that lies in a mere possibility of a comrade lifting up the sword to maybe return to Boruto, which you would guess would end up hurting them in the long run. Actually, when introduced to this ability, the general census came up with one of the three happening in the future. Either enemies grabbing the sword just to get drained, the shinju, more specifically Hidari grabbing the sword and he doesn't get drained, leading to a horrible scenario, and finally, what I just mentioned, an ally grabs the sword in a bad situation just to immediately get drained, leading them to a worse situation. All of these are very possible scenarios, especially Hidari because he possesses chakra directly from Sasuke, which is why he was able to not only pass through Konoha's sensory unit system as Sasuke Uchiha, but he also has some similar characteristics of Sasuke and carries his most lethal ability in the Chidori. So if Sasuke is a registered user of the sword, shouldn't Hidari be able to grab a hold of it and use it against Boruto if that situation presents itself? That by itself is a topic of discussion, but I want to shortly talk about something that Sumire also mentioned in this scene. As the conversation was ending, Sumire said she wanted to mention one more thing, which is the fact that the sword has a certain special material fused into it. Now, she didn't exactly say what that was, because right then after, this scene cuts out and the next scene starts. I can't lie, Ikimoto pissed me off with this because I know it could be something to do with the current threat of the Shinju, but what about it exactly? And the thing is, I know exactly how we're gonna find out too. He's done it before. We're not gonna find out what this secret material is until Boruto actually reveals it, or it comes handy in a fight. That's when we're gonna first see it. Then, after that, we'll get a flashback back to this conversation where Sumire will tell us exactly what it is and how it works. Which also means we gotta wait around 2 to 3 chapters for this to actually manifest into the story. I mean, it's a good way to keep us invested and interested in this sword and what it can do. So I do understand why he did this little trick. I have my guesses though. I believe it could be a material that negates regeneration, like Jiraiya's ability to just use the Divine Tree root to heal himself, making it impossible to repair or replace old lost cells with new ones. And this material would stay in the body once sliced by the sword and just react to certain DNA like the Shinju to constantly deconstruct their bodies. Sumire knows the situation. She knows the planet is currently being threatened by the Shinju. She even encountered one in Konoha. So to do something to the sword that helps Boruto be able to defeat the Shinju is something that I feel like she would do. I would say it could have something to do with Boruto's Otsutsuki power, but what exactly does Sumire really understand about Boruto's karma power? Unless something in the scroll reveals ancient Otsutsuki technology or something like that, the odds of it being related to the Otsutsuki is relatively low compared to it being Shinju related. You know, just because of how relevant they are to the story right now. The reason why Jiraiya seems basically immortal is because of his regenerative ability. So to take away that, you increase the chances of the planet's survival and Boruto's survival by that much. Sumire has to see that. That's the reason this sword has some secret material that kills cells, or Shinju cells in particular. And this new material is going to come in handy when it comes to fighting Mamushi because it could hinder his division ability as well, especially if Boruto was able to destroy the eyes like Hashinkoji said. So that's what I think what's in store for us. But hey, I know after reading that page, a lot of people have their own opinions that they think this material is, so quickly in the comment section below, let me know what you think the new material is that Sumire put into Boruto's sword, and what is its function? Does it have to do with the Shinju? Momoshiki? Maybe a sort of sealing jutsu or forbidden technique perhaps? Maybe it has something to do with this scene where Boruto slashes Mamushi twice with one swing it looks like, which is even crazier now that I'm seeing it in real time. Like legit, that could be one of the abilities as well. Almost like an invisible slice from the initial slice. Or a dimensional slice, I guess. I don't know. The possibilities are endless. So do let me know. So anyway, that's all for me today. What was your favorite ability from Boruto's new Jinho technique? Leave all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. And remember, if you liked the video, and don't mind seeing more like this in the near future, I'm gonna tell you what you need to do right now. Go ahead and leave that like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you know whenever I upload or go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.